Now this is my very first Xbox PC, and this is my very first computer build, one of my very first YouTube builds, YouTube videos ever, and I learned a lot from this, and this time I wanted to make a gaming Xbox computer. So I found this computer in a ditch while we were hiking, and I brought it home, got it to work. I made a video of it, and the card I'll put in the top right hand corner there. But after that, I looked at the components and see what they had. There was 8 gigabytes of RAM in there. I finally got it to work, and then I thought, well, what can I do with this? Well, and I had this old Xbox that I had purchased from Value Village for 15 bucks, and I tried to get it to work. I tried everything, little trick I could, but in the end, I could not get it to work. So I decided, hey, why not? Let's put this computer inside the Xbox and do it a little bit differently. Now, standoffs and all these other plastic bits, what I find is you don't have to use a Dremel or anything. Just use a set of pliers and you can just rip everything off quite easily. For longer pieces, all you got to do is score it with a knife and then snap it off, and it will just pop off quite nicely. So very seldom do I have to use a Dremel. And that's how you can cut this thin plastic, just by using some pliers, just breaking it off. This fits right in there. Now there's no room for a power supply. You can put a Pico power supply in here, around 200 watts max. You're going to be looking at about over $100 Canadian. So I don't want to do that. That's too expensive. So for the power supply, what I'm going to do is I am going to run an extension to the back, 24-pin extension to the back, a 4-pin ATX also to the back here, and a SATA cable to run the hard drive. And I'm going to use that old power supply as the power brick on the outside. So this is my progression so far. I put in the I/O shield. I've made my cutout a lot bigger. I have, from an old build, this low profile heatsink that I'm probably going to put in. Now for the switch, I've done this before where it's a momentary switch where you just have to solder onto the momentary switch on a diagonal pattern. And I just also clip off the ends to fit in the LED lights. The LED lights I put in parallel, and that's it. Do a test and just make sure that it works. And of course it does. I use this diagram for the pinout to help me to wire the front. I wanted to use the front Xbox ports, and you just have to buy the USB adapter so that you can run from the motherboard to the port, and then from the port to a female USB. One of the few upgrades that I did were to get the quad core and also the video card. So I went for a GTX 1050. It was on sale, and that was great. I was going to originally go for a 1030, which is around $100 Canadian, but for only $40 more, this 1050 will do a whole lot better. And as you can see, it is a low profile and a shorter card. And I just had to get some extensions for the 24-pin and the 4-pin ATX. So here, I just cut a hole through here for the power, little bracket in behind to add some reinforcement and support, and same thing here. My plan is to sandwich this in so that it will stay connected, and I'll just epoxy this in nice. I got my pieces painted in the back here. There's the 24-pin power, Molex, and the 4-pin ATX power. So these are my power cables going in. Hard drive holder. It's coming together. SSD, exhaust fan, intake fan, which I still have to mount. My 1050 GTX 1050, And as I put the cover back on, you know, I try to make everything look as stock as possible, and there's nothing bulging out. The only thing that looks a little bit off is the back, which looks different. Even the mounting or closing of the Xbox is done with the original screws. I'm pretty happy with the way it came together. I tried to keep it as clean as possible. Nothing ever works out exactly as you plan it, and I only use pretty much just some simple tools. Now, attaching the power supply, again, you got to be a little bit careful because you don't want to push things through, but just ease them in there and then they'll stay. If you want to make it a little bit prettier, you can by sleeving the cables or changing the cables, but I just don't have time for that. I'm no good with the mouse and keyboard for playing or gaming, so right now I'm just going to be using my an Xbox 360 controller. And it's pretty easy to use. It's just a plug and go, so you just plug it in, installs the drivers, and I'm going to be going with Fortnite first to try out. I found that everything seems playable on Fortnite, and it was quite comfortable to play. I'm slowly getting better. It's an awkward and different type of game to play, but I love it so far. And then some Black Ops 3, and you'll see the Black Ops 3 is quite, there's a lot of tearing. I don't know what the proper terms are anyway. It's not as smooth as I wish it to be yet, but I don't know if it's the connection right now or just the settings, but I'll have to tweak that a bit.
Be advised, hostile UAV incoming. Demo kill.
Well, the total cost of the build is around $260 for all the components, and a lot of those components, if this computer dies or I don't want to use anymore, I can reuse, like the SSD, which I got used from Kijiji, and the brand new GTX 1050, and that can easily be put in any computer, and that's a great addition. So overall I'm pretty happy with the build. Like I said, airflow is a big thing because once you start adding in a bit more heat, that little box heats up quite a bit. So having an intake-outtake fans really does help. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed.